All right, you guys, welcome to another episode of Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. It is your boy again, it's Terry. Happy Friday to all you guys that are listening. I have a very interesting topic today. And if you guys have been following this podcast for the short time that I have returned, you realize that I'm going through a lot of grief during my current situation and all that. So we're going to get into that. I'll be right back.
Welcome to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. This podcast was designed to let you know that you aren't the only one that took forever to get it together. So the rabbit hole that you have stumbled down will hopefully help you understand that just when you think it's over, it's only the beginning. Just because you were dealt a bad hand doesn't mean you have to keep it. Welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast.
All right, and welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. It is, again, it's your boy, Terry. I'm just trying to live this life one day at a time, like I'm always talking about. Some days are better than others. And it's definitely, today was definitely an eye-opening day. And so today, the topic of this podcast episode is going to be just accept it. Simply just accept it. Now, I struggle with acceptance. On certain situations that I have no control over. And I wonder why we as a people always have, or why we really have that particular issue with acceptance. Like when we accept when a loved one passes away, we accept job promotion, we accept rejection at job. We have to accept certain things. And I'm, in that stage of grief, to where I have to learn how to accept the end of my last situation. Now, what I realized is that, I didn't realize, I think I've heard over 1,000 times over my lifetime that there are different stages of grief. There are actually 5 stages of grief that we go through. And one is the denial stage. It's the first one. I think I went through that at the first beginning when she first told me that she wanted out. I was in denial, and it really bugged me because I think denial comes from the fact that we can't control the end of the situation, and so we as men, we get to that place where, that ain't true. She wants me. She's not going anywhere. What are you talking about? And so a lot of men get stuck in that denial stage, and that's when you get the crazy ex-husbands and crazy boyfriend, ex-baby daddies and all that jazz. Because we don't control it, it's easier for us to deny it and be like, that's not true. It's just some talk. She talking. The second stage of grief that I realized, or that is true fact, is anger. And I think, for me, I don't think I didn't go through the anger stage. I think, maybe I did. And I didn't really realize that it was anger, until I got into therapy. And my therapist told me, she says, you do have the anger. It's like she gave me a demonstration of she gave me a picture of an iceberg and how on the surface it looks like anger, but under the iceberg, because how icebergs work, they're bigger under the bottom. And under the bottom of the iceberg, you had all the different feelings of failure, self-worth, low self-esteem, all kinds of negative things under the iceberg. But all of that shows is anger. And I think that's what I definitely went through, because I did get angry, but I never spouted my anger. A lot of guys deal with anger in different ways. They're petty. I'm one of those. I used to be one of those petty guys. I think I still am, but just not in this situation. And, they show different things. They show, the crazy aggression. They show, they get into that, if I can't have you, nobody can type situation. And that's the anger showing. And then, you leave the anger, you leave the anger portion of it, and then you get into bargaining. That's the third one, bargaining. Now you're trying to make it make sense in your head, because sometimes you feel like the math isn't always mathing, right? And you figure, okay, if I do this, let's do this. if I accept this particular circumstance in the situation, then you would accept this. And so I went through. I don't think I ever hit that bargaining stage. Maybe I did. I think I skipped a couple of steps and put bargaining before denial. But it still happens. It's still one of those one of the five stages of grief. And I wanted to make things work, and I just I did this and I accepted terms of certain agreements that just didn't make any mathematical sense. And just because I wanted to just, bargain with her and make it make sense. And then the stage that hit me the worst was depression. That's the fourth one. I was severely depressed. I think I even have days now to where I suffer from depression. I try to do things to keep my focus elsewhere from the depression. I do stuff at work. I do this podcast. I do a lot of things to put my focus somewhere else. And depression is one of those things that a lot of people get stuck in. And depression will take you out of here if you're not careful. You'll do anything about it if you don't get medication, if you don't see a therapist, if you don't, And some people get stuck in that. And they stay stuck in it because they have a stigma of reaching out for help and getting therapy, talking to somebody because they feel like it's a sign of weakness. If I talk to you about what's going on with me, then I'm letting down the guard and letting you in. And, I don't know what you're thinking of me. Are you judging me because of what I'm going through? Are you judging me because of my circumstances or what have you? And that is a battle that I went through when I went through my depression. But I reached out and I was like, look, because if you guys listen to the first couple of episodes, my depression almost took me out of here to where, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't have any social interaction outside of my current living situation other than work. I struggle with depression big time. I still struggle with it. But the final level of grief, and this is what I woke up to this morning, and I want you guys to catch this just for a second. I got to a place, I think I'm at a place of simply accepting the situation. Out of all five of these stages of grief, I think acceptance is the hardest one. You figure that accepting the situation for what it is liberating. And to some degree, it is. But for me, my acceptance was not as liberating as I thought it was going to be. I struggle with acceptance because I suffer from, I have a hard time with acceptance because of the circumstances of the situation in the beginning. So the marriage ended, and it ended rather quickly. She moved on rather quickly. And I really, really struggle in that arena. And I'm going to keep it a buck right there. I really, really struggle in that arena because, 10 years, almost 10 years, and to be thrown away like a piece of garbage. And I get with women, I get the whole sentiment, once a woman's fed up, right? I get that. But as a man, though, still struggle in that. And I'm like, why'd you throw me away so quick? Why did you move on so fast? Why were you so swift to run into the arms of another man? But at the same time, I kind of understand it. Then I don't. You know what I mean? So I'm conflicted a lot of days. But this morning I woke up and I was just on a level of accepting and just being okay with accepting the situation. Now, am I happy about it? Absolutely not. Nobody said that happiness is bundled with acceptance, because it's not. It's just one of those things that has to be done in this life in order for you to move forward. I have to move forward with my life. I think I've wasted a lot of time on the other four stages of grief when I could have just accepted it a long time ago and moved on. A lot of times we halt our own progression in this life because we're stuck on one of these stages of grief. She moved on. I had to accept that. She found affection in the arms of another guy. I had to accept that. I have to accept that I am a part-time father to my son now. I have to accept that. I have to accept that she don't give two flying flips about what I think, what I'm doing, all of that. Just like I said in the last episode, what I eat don't make her poop. She doesn't care. So once I got to that point to where I have to accept the situation, I said, okay, this is definitely a podcast episode, because I want to tell the people that are listening out here, you simply have to accept it. Move on. And just like I said in the last episode of this podcast, let them talk. Let them do whatever they're going to do. Your freedom, your liberation, your blessing is on the other side of the acceptance. The same way I used to tell people, sometimes God funny. Those of you who are believers, or you're divine, or whatever that is for you guys. Sometimes God's funny. God is funny about people and situations. And what God will do sometimes is that he will put your blessing or your progression or your liberation on the other side of the test. I want you guys to catch this, on the other side of the test, because when we're going through the test, we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We don't see any kind of solution. We don't see none of that. We're going through the test. We're going through our storm. We don't know. But God said, okay, this is what I'm going to do for you, son. I'm going to put your liberation, your happiness, your blessings on the other side of this test. Now you're going to have to go through it in order to get it. And that's what I'm telling the people. That's what I'm going to tell the people that are listening right now. If you are struggling with acceptance of certain situations being over, friendships, jobs, whatever it is you're facing right now in your life, please understand that God has put your blessing, your freedom, your liberation on the other side of this test. It ain't comfortable. It ain't smooth. It's not going to make you have butterflies, none of that. It's going to it's going to be uncomfortable for you, because it's uncomfortable for me. So I know I speak from firsthand experience. I know exactly what it feels like to go through the storm, to go through the test, to go through people talking about you, to go through, people putting dirt on your name. I've been there and there now. But the blessing is on the other side of the acceptance. Just accept it. Whatever the situation is, just accept it. Don't fight it. Don't you cry not another tear about the situation. Accept it. Move on. Because sometimes God moves people, situations, and things right out of your way. And because we are who we are as humans, and it's normal, we want to keep it. When God said the whole time, accept it. Move on. Your life, you only get one time to live it. You don't get redos with this thing. Accept it and move on. So with that, I want to thank you guys for listening to another episode. I really appreciate it. I hope that you subscribe and follow and all of that. You can listen to me on all podcasting platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, especially as my podcast host. Please follow, like, subscribe. That way you won't miss a single episode. So until next time, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will talk to you guys next week.
Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't fry your brain too bad. Come back through and give me another chance. You can listen on all platforms and visit us at knuckleheadchroniclespodcast.podbean.com. Until next time, in the words of the incomparable Jerry Springer, take care of yourself and each other.